Hey there, everybody. Welcome to OpenCV Live, episode 183. If you can believe it, it is Thursday at 9 a.m., and you know what that means. I am your co-host with the co-most, the second banana who's second to none. I'm also your plus one and only. It's Mr. Nelson. If you're nasty, but y'all can call me Phil. And on today's episode, we have a really fun, a little bit different thing than we normally do. We've got author and data scientist Kristen Kehrer here with us to talk about how her interest and curiosity in learning computer vision led to her writing a children's book featuring computer vision. She built this really interesting bus stop detector with her kids, and we're going to learn from her experience here today. But first, we've got a few things to cover before we get started with the presentation. We do a couple things on this show every single week, the very first of which is a giveaway to you in the audience. And our gracious guest has said that they will give us today's trivia winner. Later in the episode, I'm going to ask a trivia question based on today's presentation. And the first person to answer that question correctly, whether they're watching on Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Zoom, will win a copy of Kristen's book. Pretty excited about that. So stay tuned. In about 40 minutes, we're going to do that. We're also taking questions from you in the audience. Use the chat function wherever you're watching to ask your questions anytime during the show. We're saving about 10 minutes at the end of the episode to answer those questions, or if they make sense in the flow of conversation during the presentation, I'll bring them up there as well. And we'll bring the best ones up on screen. So give us those questions. If you're on Zoom, you can use the little Q&A button at the bottom of the screen, and that helps us take stock of those as well. One of the things I want to talk about before we get started again here is OpenCV just dropped prices dramatically. I'm going to bring up my screen share real quick to show you the OpenCV store. There we go. OpenCV products are now much cheaper. The import CV2 t-shirt, for example, $28.99 plus shipping USD, down from about $40. These prices are going to stay low because we just want to see more people out in the world wearing OpenCV merch, and we've made the prices basically as low as we can. We make, full disclosure, we make I think like $4 or $5 per shirt, and we've seen a lot of you taking advantage of the new low prices. Please buy yourself a pet bandana. Send me a picture of your pet, whether they're wearing the bandana or not. And at the end of these episodes, I'm going to start showing some OpenCV community member pets. So you can hear one of our pets in the background there. That's Lola. So yes, Steve from Smart Mansion says he bought a hat, a t-shirt, and a tote bag last week, and now owns all of the courses. Hokey Smokes Steve, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Every little bit helps, and you have done a lot. Kristen, I think that is enough from me for now. Welcome to the show. Please let the people know who you are, and let's get started with the presentation, all right?
Oh my God, thank you. And I love the beginning of your intro so much. I'm Kristen Kehrer, and today I am going to be sharing my journey into trying computer vision for the first time as a traditionally tabular data person. Let me see if I can just get this up. Phil, how do I add this to the screen? Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, awesome. So this is my journey into building a school bus detector. So I'm Kristen Kehrer. I've been a data scientist since 2010. I worked in the utilities. I started in econometric time series analysis and forecasting, building neural nets to forecast hourly electric load. I later went into healthcare doing things like, how do we motivate people to get their colorectal cancer screenings? And then I spent the majority of my time in e-commerce. And then in 2018, I started creating content. And by 2019, I had sort of built up enough of a following where I had enough business to go off on my own doing freelance data science work and consulting. And that's sort of where things got really interesting in terms of the type of work I was taking on and doing a lot of teaching and playing with a lot of different projects that I maybe wouldn't have had the opportunity if I had stayed in e-commerce. And so today we are going to talk about how I built the bus detector. And really, it's the story of me fumbling through and the highs and the lows of working with image data for the first time, when I sort of went into it not really knowing exactly what I was doing, and how I overcame those obstacles, and then how I turned it into a children's book. So in 2022, I had started working for a company called Comet ML, and they're in the MLOPs space. So they do experiment tracking, model registry, tracking your data lineage, model monitoring. And as a developer advocate for Comet, I really needed a project to be able to show Comet's functionality. And I wanted to do something cool. And this was before LLMs, right? And so the coolest thing that I saw on social media, or what I saw was getting a lot of engagement, was when people shared interesting videos around computer vision. It felt like being able to show a video of what you were doing was something that was really going to grab people's attention. And then at the same time, I've been a data scientist now for 15 years. So I wanted to do something that was like really practical for my home, because I had just built so many projects. A lot of them I didn't touch again. And I wanted to do something that I was actually going to use. And I realized that I was set up well for building a bus detector because the bus had to pass my house and then come back. So I'd be able to get a picture of the bus, a text about the bus when it first went by. And then that gave me a 5-minute heads up that the bus was coming. Because if you don't have kids, you're maybe not aware, but the bus can be late. It's just that, like, I might get distracted. I'm doing something else in the kitchen, and then I don't tell my kids to get their shoes on, and now the bus is coming, and we have no idea where the shoes are, right? So like, I had experienced stress from the bus, and it just felt like the perfect project because it was computer vision. It was going to solve a real world problem. And I was really excited to take on something that I had never done before. Right. So here's how high level I ended up doing it. When I first started walking through this, and just like come with me on this journey, right? Like, it's my first time building a computer vision project. I sort of have no idea what I'm doing, but I also know that I don't want to spend a ton of money on a camera. So the things that I was thinking about were like, okay, I need to, be able to get real time streaming data. So I need a camera that is at least going to, allow me to do that. I need to be able to work with the camera and save images, but I don't want a camera that's fancy enough. Everyone always asks me like, oh, are you able to see the number on the bus so you can tell which bus is your daughter's and which bus is your son's? No, I can't, because I live in a pretty small town. And so the only buses that pass are the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, right? Like, there's not a ton of buses. I don't have to manage a whole lot of things. I don't really care. Like, I know that my daughter's bus comes before my son's bus. So if I get a text at 7:35, I know that's for my daughter. So I wasn't going to spend the money to get a fancier camera. I just wanted one that was going to meet my needs. And then obviously I used that with OpenCV. In the beginning, I started with a different tool for annotating the images. And then on Reddit, I met this guy who was like, you got to try RoboFlow. And he was a developer advocate for RoboFlow, but I figured I'd give it a try. It is the best. I love the UI. The customer service has been fantastic. I have only ever used free credits, so I haven't paid for it. And I just found it incredibly easy. It's like an end-to-end platform, but I don't use it as an end-to-end platform. I only used it for annotation, and then I downloaded those images to train my model. And then, of course, Comet, because that was the product that I was plugging at the time. I am no longer with Comet. I used Ultralytics models to train. So at the time, I'm not 100% sure it's still the case. It's probably still the case, but the YOLO V5 is where I started. I eventually went to YOLO V8. Now I'm on YOLO V11. But YOLO V5, it was trained on the COCO data set, which, already had like cars and trucks. It did not have school buses specifically. So I needed to train this on school buses. And then I put NVIDIA there only because I am training and running inference locally. And then I am sending text with AWS. Whew. So getting into all the fun, I think, this was probably the longest part for me, and probably one of the biggest learning experiences, because partially out of laziness, obviously I should have started with OpenCV to collect and save my images. I did not. I had already set that up, but instead of, putting the camera in my window at that point and saving that data for annotation, I was like, oh, I'll just take a video with my phone. And then I turned that video into frames and tried to annotate that. And I only had a couple hundred images, and it didn't work that well. So then my mind went to, and this is really for the person, I hope that there's some people here listening that haven't done a computer vision project before and, hear these learnings and they're like, oh yeah, that's sort of obvious, but I probably could have made that mistake myself, right? The next thing I thought was, well, I need way more images. How am I going to get these images? I'll download them from Google. And so I pulled a bunch of images down from Google, and that didn't really suit my needs either, because now I had a bunch of orientations and, different types of buses and just other things going on with the image that my model was never going to see. So I tried that, and that was also a failure. And then the third time, I just actually used what my camera was going to see every day. And obviously that worked best. And I annotated, I don't know, maybe 1,500, 1,800 images. And then we were in business, right?
Hey, I mean, you had the same first thought as OpenAI, Anthropic, everybody. I'll just download it from Google, no big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, of course. Well, because with the bus too, it's like, you don't think about it, but it doesn't run on the weekends. It only passes your house at super early in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you've got to either be set up to catch it when it's going, or you've got to stop what you're doing and make sure you go and catch that. And so it was just like, man, if I could do this at 6 o'clock on a Thursday, that'd be great. And that was not the case. I needed to put in the extra effort and get myself set up.
Yeah, you
And
have to
then
go to where the bus is,
go to where the bus is, right? Yeah, yeah, we're like philosophers. Um, so I had a lot of questions along this process as well, right? Because I had heard about augmenting images, I had heard about, so many different things, right? And it's this whole field that I, as a data scientist, decided I was going to jump into with basically no knowledge and try and, find my path. And part of what I did at the time, I had a show, the Cool Data Project show. And what I would do was I would invite guests who had worked on a cool project, whether that was tabular data. LLMs, again, weren't a thing, so I didn't talk to too many text people, but I started inviting people who were really good at computer vision to my show. So on the left is Akash James. He's amazing. I think he's like an NVIDIA ambassador as well. And then I noticed that Peter, who's pictured down here, has also been on the OpenCV Live show.
Yes, indeed.
Because he's awesome, right? He's awesome. But so I started inviting these people who knew a lot about computer vision, and I would like casually work some of my questions into the interview. And so I learned a ton that way. The episodes are still up on the, Comet ML YouTube channel. But, I was able to ask Akash a lot about like augmenting data and just different things. And I like I would recommend anyone who's trying something new. There are still a lot of podcasts that have Q&A at the end. So if you have a specific question, like, yes, ChatGPT is great. ChatGPT has also sent me in circles before. Like, you can go and there's a chance that you might be able to ask live experts who understand the context and are doing these things in industry. And it's maybe something you haven't thought of that you might want to think about doing, right? So once I
For
got
example, this is one of those channels. In about 25 minutes or so, we will do our trivia giveaway, and we will break for some questions from you in the audience. Please post those questions wherever you're watching in the chat. I'll be moderating those, and also on Zoom, use the Q&A button there, and we will do our best to answer all of them.
Absolutely, I should have mentioned that. But so mistakes I made, obviously I mentioned that with the first time I only had a couple hundred images. It wasn't enough data. Even after I did more images going the OpenCV route, I still got false positives. And I was able to analyze those using tools like there's a open source library, Kangas, that's really good. Comet ML also has the ability to help you like look at the bounding box, like the actual, and then what the computer said on your on the images that you have. And so being able to look at those false positives and say, okay, what kind of data do I need to train on? What do I think it is that really tripped the model up? Was super helpful. And then I didn't actually put like this over augmented data into my model. Like, I could look at that and realize that that was like really dumb. But at the same time, right, it's really easy to start pressing buttons, especially if you're using something like a RoboFlow where it's just, a point and click UI, where you can end up making your data like completely useless. And so that was something that I played with, and then realized that I didn't even need to augment my data at all. Like, when I was talking to, I slipped that question into my Cool Data Project show, and Akash was like, look, like, your camera is going to see that same bus every day. It's going to be the same color. It's going to have the same background. It's going to be in the same orientation. Like, you don't need to be augmenting your data because of the way that things are set up. And then the other thing is my, my files. So again, with the fact that the bus doesn't come over the summer, right? So I put this project down for 2 months. I come back and I have all these files of the Google data, the data from my phone, the data from OpenCV, the augmented data, the like just different iterations and things that I had tried. And then I had to climb through all these files and try to figure out which one was the data set that I trained my model on, where the hell was I? And I didn't know. And so thank God for data lineage. So right, like, I don't work for Comet ML anymore, so I'm not going to plug it too hard, but I feel like these MLOps companies, often they're going after business from the companies that are working on like deep learning, because that's where the biggest pain point is. Obviously, they have larger data sets, they have different needs. But at the same time, as somebody who has been like manually fitting models my whole life, or at least, the first 10 years of my career, um, I used to write down like the values from my loss functions in a notebook or put them in Excel. And so when I saw this and I realized that everything could be tracked, that my data lineage could be tracked, that I didn't have to have this issue, there was such value there. And something like ML Flow is open source. So if you haven't jumped on the bandwagon yet of tracking your experiments and tracking your data lineage, like that is something you want to be doing. It is like a breath of fresh air. It makes things so much easier. And even if you use Comet ML, like you don't have to pay for, so like really people start paying once you get into the model monitoring, but when you're on the side of experiment tracking and tracking your data lineage, they have a really robust community edition, and that's just free. So as long as you're not trying to work with multiple people, if this is for your own personal projects, that's free. And I still sort of prefer that UI over working with ML Flow, although I do use ML Flow for all of my projects now. But I mean, life-changing, absolutely life-changing if you're a data scientist.
Yeah, one of the things that often happens is we forget to be nice to our future selves
Yes.
when we're working with data or even programming stuff. There are many times, especially when I was a younger developer, where I would be looking back in a few months and saying, "Damn you, past Phil, what have you done to me?" And now I try to be nice to future Phil.
No, I still do that with my comments and my code. I'm still a jerk. Like there's so many times where I look back and I'm like, wow, like I could have been kinder. I could have been kinder. Um so after talking about the mistakes I made, I just love to share some of the mistakes the model made. And of course, this is partially due to, playing with it without having enough data in there. The picture in the top right, that was me during the summer trying to like still be able to play with this and move this forward a bit, even though I knew that the bus wasn't going to be passing my house. And then just out of like pure curiosity is like, hey, if I print out a picture of the bus on my printer and hold it in front of the camera, is it going to work? And it did not work well. Um, just for funsies, a picture that I got from S3 was, the like little bottoms of my Christmas lawn ornaments out in the front yard that it thought was people. That's not super confident, but I just thought it was so cute. The plow, of course, the back end of, I think that's the back end of that plow really looks like a school bus. So I didn't even fault that, but I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
reasonable.
yeah. But then the one that like really got me, and this wasn't the only time I got a false positive from this soccer net. There was something about, I think it had to do with the like diamonds of the net or whatever, but like I had gotten multiple false positives. I don't get them anymore because I've like added more training data over time. But there was something about that soccer net that I kept getting pictures of that soccer net. These were notes for myself, making sure that, ba, ba. Yep, I
Yeah,
kept.
shout out to the homies at RoboFlow, the longtime OpenCV Silver member, one of our uh, strongest supporters out there. You can try RoboFlow for free, like Kristen has been using it, and give us a small kickback by going to roboflow.com/OpenCV.
Yeah, no, seriously, use their link and go try that out because I am such a huge fan. That Oh man, I almost they're one of the best customer experiences I've had. Like they're fantastic.
I'm going to go ahead and put the QR code up on screen for folks watching live. Go ahead and scan that code.
I'll give people a second. All right, so this is just the experiment tracking dashboard. So if I wanted to, there's not a ton here, but basically all of my runs, I could look across it and say like, oh, okay, what has the best precision? What has the best recall? And then of course think about like, hey, if my neighbor drives by and I get a false positive, do I care about that as much as if I miss the bus? Like obviously, and I've never missed a bus. But I've really worked to get false positives down, but like false positives weren't necessarily my biggest concern, because I wasn't getting a ton of them. But it just, and like I said, so you can look at the confusion matrix. You can look at, I should have put a picture up here, but like you can look at the bounding box, and how well you're doing compared to the actual bounding boxes of what it was trained on for the training data, and that was fantastic. So moving along, I use Boto 3 to send the texts. AWS does require you to have a toll-free phone number, like with them, because they want to make sure that you're not spamming a bunch of people. And I had to put in that, like, I'm only actually sending texts to myself. And so that's $2 a month. All in, I spend about $12 a month to run the bus detector. I'm also saving images. And that was like one of the main ways that I figured out like what my false positives were, and knew that, hey, it's time to, go and correct those. So I do spend $12 a month to keep the school bus detector running, of course, less in the summer. Like I said, I pass the photos, and then there's so much more that I could do to improve this, like the bus for the high school. None of my kids go to high school. I could like very easily, set it up so that I don't get texts for the high school bus, because I know, roughly what time it's going to pass. And, it would be so simple, but I haven't. It just like wasn't part of my priority. I have a system and it works, and it doesn't miss any buses, but I do put a 30-second wait in between a detection of the bus, so that I'm not like overworking the system, and getting more texts than I need. And 30 seconds has really been enough. I haven't really had any issues with that. But one of the things that I'm super passionate about is that like taking this on has opened up so many other opportunities for me. So after I finished this one project, then it became, okay, I'm gonna put computer vision on a couple Raspberry Pis and a Jetson Nano, and I just compared like their latency and things like that. And I was still working at Comet, so surprise, it was still to be able to highlight like experiment tracking functionality and data lineage and stuff like that. But I gave a demo talk at ODSC. That was fun. Then I started working with vector databases. So I was doing image similarity search here. And then I did text similarity search. That actually might be on the next slide. I was going to try a medication adherence project. So I actually bought a 3D printer, which then my husband has become obsessed with. So I can't take any credit for anything having to do with the 3D printer, because basically once it got into our home, he just sort of took over. But I was going to make it so like here it's printing a little structure and you'd put your pills in it. And then when you'd lift your pills up, it would just record that you picked up your pills. And then that would write to a dashboard, so that, right, like if you're trying a new medication and it's time to go sit down and talk with your doctor, you'd be able to say like, oh, hey, the medication isn't really working, but like I also looked at my data and I, missed it a bunch of times, or it was just going, get a text at noon to say like, hey, you haven't taken your pills for the day yet, something like that. So that you don't take them twice. And then I realized that that was completely going to be over engineering the problem, because it's something that could be done with sensors. So I immediately dropped that project. But the idea is that once I got started, all these other ideas started coming and like flooding in for things that I could do. Because then
shout out to interrupt, sorry there. Shout out to the Creality Ender 3 Pro, which is the 3D printer I also have.
Yes, we've upgraded to a bamboo, but
Nice.
this got
Does
a
the
lot.
bamboo have like the enclosed print bed, or is it still an open print bed?
Yeah, no, it's the enclosed one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah,
It's
no,
funny how the temperature fluctuations and like somebody opening the door, right? And a cold breeze comes in, can really mess up a 3D print if you don't have that enclosure. But yeah, the Ender 3, mine's a workhorse. I've had it for like 5 years. I'm kind of amazed that it still works with what I've put it through.
Did you do all like the modifications and stuff to
Oh
optimize?
yeah, I recognize the filament guide on the top there. I have one of those. I've installed the Marlin upgraded Marlin firmware on there. I've got a bunch of little, the glass print bed, all that stuff.
Nice. Nice. Um, right. So I started doing similarity search with text, and around this time, LLMs were getting really hot. I built a couple LLM demos, and I feel like it was really that I had already fumbled my way through a computer vision project, that it's like, oh, why not fumble my way through a text project? Like, that sounds like fun. So I ended up writing with Wiley Machine Learning Upgrade, a data scientist's guide to MLOps, LLMs, and ML infrastructure. And so it basically just brings you through setting up experiment tracking, working with data lineage, how to build an app that's, like a wrapper around GPT 3.5, using that API, and model monitoring with Evidently AI. And so, which is also, that's open source. And so that was that book. But bringing it back, like throughout the whole process, my kids were involved. Like we got to play with, and my daughter doesn't even look like this anymore because this was 3 years ago. But as I was getting this all set up, as I was like, image annotation is not too difficult for your kids to work with when it's literally drawing a box. Like if you get it set up, drawing a box and hitting the button, you can just put them to work. And so my daughter Susie was, not with me the whole time, obviously, but a part of the journey, and a part of, hey, the camera's set up, we're gonna stand in the front yard and see if it can still detect us when we do cartwheels and we're upside down. Like let's look at that. And so when my friend Jordan Morrow wrote, so he was second author actually. So Chandra Donaldson wrote The Data Detective at the Carnival, and I saw it come out as a children's book. At the time that I was thinking about this, Wiley didn't really have children's books yet, but I saw him come out with a children's book, and I really always wanted to do that. Like really always wanted to do that. And because I had been building in public, I had seen how well received the computer vision project was. So then it was, okay, I'm going to make this computer vision project into a children's book. And I really wanted to share the pipeline, which in a lot of ways is similar for tabular data projects. It looks a little different for LLMs, but like the core concepts are there. And I felt like for kids, there's so many books about like what it's like to be, a police officer or other jobs. And I felt like when we talk about books for kids and they involve AI, it's like we just stick a robot in the story or whatever. And I really wanted to be able to tell to kids in a way, like for the elementary aged level, that they could understand what data scientists did, or, what somebody who's building a computer vision model did, what, is behind this AI that we're all talking about. And then start to be able to think about the potential limitations, right? Because at the end of the day, it's data, it's a model, it's not perfect. And start to just conceptualize like the reality of, the things that we're talking about and what's actually going on here. And I wrote it all in rhyme because that's just something that I would do. And so, right, it's literally bringing you through the pipeline. And this was just most what I wanted to share with children. You set up the camera. There's a page where it's literally showing, just that we have a ton of images, but then here Susie is annotating. And then the idea that like, if we don't have enough data, we're going to add more data, and that, you know, when you get the output from the model, that's not enough. We need to write code to make this useful. And then I talk about some applications of computer vision that people see in real life. I talk about different types of computer vision. I had super resolution in there originally, but with the illustration style, it was going to be really difficult to show like a blurrier image and then a more crisp image. So literally, you know, 2 weeks before it launched, I removed it. And then one of the things that I've always wanted to do, I had my first Barnes and Noble's reading recently, where I got to go
Aww.
and I read to kids and got to share it with everyone, and that was fantastic, but like also way scarier than preparing for something like this, because I'm so used
I
to
can
doing
imagine.
these types of talks. But you go and talk in front of kids, and I'm like, man, not only that, but like I was like, is anyone going to show up? There was people there. It was cool. In conclusion, so building in public has done so much for me. Trying new data types has done an incredible amount for me. It makes me think about, you know, in 2015, 2016, I started really hearing about big data, and that sounded like, ooh, like it was like scary. Like I thought it was going to be learning, just that I was going to have to like climb this huge mountain to be useful working with big data. And then once I started working with it, I realized that like it wasn't that huge of a leap, and like it is a leap to jump into different data types. There's all sorts of things that you need to learn about working with images that is different, and like ways that we, you know, and working with text data, like, you know, we use different metrics and you have to learn what those mean, and there is stuff to learn, but it's like so it's so something that is like within your grasp if you're like willing to just dive in and read a bunch of blog posts. And with ChatGPT, it's like, and other AI tools, it's never been easier. I wish I had that when I was jumping into this. But so, yeah, like there may also be opportunities for you to build things that you actually use in real life. I've been using this bus detector now for like 2 or 3 years. Every school day, I'm getting texts in the morning and the afternoon. Like it is useful. I am so glad I built this. Susie's School Bus Solution and my other book, Machine Learning Upgrade, are available at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And I think Machine Learning Upgrade is available at like Target and a bunch of other places. But anyways, and I'm available on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for letting me share this with you.
Wow, yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much. I really enjoyed this. I think the audience did as well. We got a lot of really nice comments out there. Let me go ahead and pull myself back from the void on screen here. Yes, thanks so much, Kristen. This was a lot of fun. The presentation was great. We will bring you back in just a moment for some questions from the audience. We got some good ones on here. I've got a few myself as well. And we'll also, we've dropped the links to your book on bookshop.org and Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And so let's take a minute here to do a little bit of station identification and a thank you to the sponsors that make this show possible. Today's episode of OpenCV Live is brought to you by the Edge AI and Vision Alliance. Computer vision and perceptual AI developer survey is going on right now from the Edge AI and Vision Alliance. You can scan that QR code that's on your screen and take this survey that they've got going on, their 2025 developer survey. Every year they do a survey like this to help them understand the requirements and pain points around computer vision and perceptual AI from the developer perspective. It takes about 20 minutes, and you'll get access to the results when you take this survey, and you'll also get a discount on a 2-day pass to the Embedded Vision Summit in next year. So yeah, enjoy. Please take the survey. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute with some more information. But if you don't know, the Edge AI and Vision Alliance are an OpenCV member organization. We do some cross promotion, and we also go to the Embedded Vision Summit every year. OpenCV really enjoys the show they put on. And the Edge AI and Vision Alliance is a worldwide industry partnership bringing together technology providers and product companies to accelerate the adoption of Edge AI and Vision in products. Founded in 2011, the Alliance now has more than 100 member companies, ranging from name brand multinationals to newly formed startups, such as our friends at OpenMV. One thing they have in common is they either produce technology to enable AI and vision in products, or they use AI and vision in their products. You can check them out at edge-ai-vision.com and learn more. Go to one of their events, sign up for their newsletter, the Edge AI Vision Insights newsletter. It's a really good one. It's one of the industry newsletters that I personally subscribe to, and there's a whole lot of them out there, but theirs is generally pretty good, and I actually do subscribe to it. So a rare personal endorsement from your boy Phil here. OpenCV is a nonprofit organization that puts out open source software, and as such, we depend on your help to keep going. We also depend on the support of the OpenCV member organizations, such as the homies over at I lost myself for a minute there. Such as the members and partners you see on your screen right now. For example, ARM, Qualcomm, RunPod, Intrinsic, FutureWay, JetBrains, RoboFlow, Hackster, Seventh Sense, Google's Summer of Code, which will be featuring some of this year's GSOC results soon on a few episodes of OpenCV Live, OpenMV, Orbic, Tangram Vision, Amped Software, Intuitivo, Rerun, the Edge AI and Vision Alliance, and Big Vision. If your company uses OpenCV extensively and benefits from our open source software, please consider becoming a member organization and donating to OpenCV. You can do that by going to opencv.org/support. OpenCV is not just open source software, but is a nonprofit organization and a 501c3 nonprofit in the United States. Your company can become a member organization at one of three levels: bronze, silver, and gold. You can find out all about these levels in the pamphlets we've created for these. These are created to work for companies that are just starting out at the bronze level. If you're a small startup but want to give back, silver is for more established companies, and gold is for those big heavy hitters like ARM and Qualcomm. It's opencv.org/support. Once again, I'll bring that up on the screen here. Scan that QR code and check it out. You can also donate individually via Stripe or PayPal. We really do appreciate those. Every little bit helps. As we say here, if you work for a large organization like a John Deere or Apple or Microsoft, often these companies will match your donation one-to-one. If your company uses a piece of software, a service called Benevity, you can donate through OpenCV. You can donate to OpenCV from the Benevity Causes portal. Tell your bosses about it, and they will match those donations. You can also sponsor OpenCV on GitHub. GitHub, we currently have 16 sponsors. Love to see it, folks. We really appreciate that. I'm going to give them all their moment of fame here. We've got LivePeer. We've got iPop. We've got DJ Greenwood. We've got Rudis Laboratories. We've got Tala Hussein. We've got Oase Shaki. Sorry if I mangled your name there. Let me know in the chat. RoboFlow. We've got Rohit Das. We've got Alexander Ismailov. We've got Comet ML. We've got Jonas Heinle. We've got Nick Libertini, Tegan Burns, Blue Jay, Jesus Armando Anaya, and Christopher Piekarski. That's a Polish name, so I probably pronounced it completely wrong, but we really appreciate your help there. Please let me know if I butchered your name. Send an email to phil@opencv.org, and I'll do my best to get it right next time. We've also got a few folks on YouTube as well. Thank you to YouTube members, Dahamaja Pazani, Thug Life 1337, Von Svedson, Rufus Sese, Mariam Banu, Mathagoram, and Dr. Carlos F. Navaduenas. Thank you so much for being members over on the OpenCV YouTube channel. That's OpenCV official on YouTube, at OpenCV official on YouTube. You can also support OpenCV by buying OpenCV merchandise in the official OpenCV merchandise store. That's opencv.myspreadshop.com. As we said earlier in the episode, OpenCV products are now much more affordable. You can buy the OpenCV logo t-shirt for $23.49 USD plus shipping in a whole bunch of different colors. Some of them look a little better than others. Personally, I'm partial to gray, but you can find it in a bunch of other colors there. We've also got hats, we've got buttons, we've got stickers, we've got the NPR style tote bag for $16.99, as well as pet bandanas. Buy one of these bandanas, put it on your pet, take a picture and send it to me, and we will feature your pet's photo on a future episode of OpenCV Live. We've also got the official OpenCV store. OpenCV member organizations have products and you should buy them. We've launched with RoboFlow, Orbic, OpenCV University, and OpenMV. You can go to opencv.org/store and check out OpenCV member products. If you buy some of these, we get a little bit of a kickback. So if you're interested in the Femto Mega, the Astra 2, the Gemini 336L from Orbic, for example, buy those by going through our store first, and we'll get a little kickback from the homies at Orbic. Also, RoboFlow, everything you need to build and deploy computer vision applications. Used by over 1 million engineers to create datasets, train models, and deploy to production, including our guest today, Kristen Kehrer, author of Susie's School Bus Solution. And of course, you can buy OpenCV merchandise and use it as a jumping off point for that stuff as well. Newly added is OpenMV, the newest OpenCV bronze member. Their RT-Cam 1062 is a little powerhouse, and the AE3, courtesy of MicroPython, one of the most powerful and interesting new cameras I've seen in years. Go check it out there. They're openmv.io. Shout out to my neighbor, Kwabena, the co-founder and CEO over there. Okay, now I guess it is time for our main event, or one of the main events here. One of the things that people love to participate in out there, folks. So the way this works is I'm going to ask a trivia question based on the presentation from our illustrious guest, Kristen. We really appreciate Kristen's help here today and sharing her experience and story. Hopefully, a few of you out there will buy her various books and tune into her social medias and podcast. One of the things we talked about was how the project was made. The way this works is I'm going to ask a question. First person to answer on Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on Zoom will win the a signed copy, I think Kristen said. Is that right, Kristen? Oh, I think you're muted here. One moment. Let me bring you back. Okay, sorry. Signed copy, yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Steve Simpson just bought a copy of the book over there. Thank you so much, Steve. First person to answer anywhere the question I'm about to ask will get a signed copy of Kristen's book. Super excited about that. Obviously, this is pending shipping places. Some places we can ship to, some places we can't. If you win and we can't ship to where you live, we will figure out some other way to make sure you get a decent prize. Perhaps it'll be an OpenCV University course. If you have won in the last couple of months, please do not answer and give someone else a chance to win. So we talked about how the project, Susie's School Bus Solution, was made, the school bus detector. I want you to name 2 of the software products used to make that tool. Just 2 of them in the chat, wherever you're watching. Oh, wow, that was a quick one. Hokey smokes Bullwinkle. Micolage, I think I pronounced that correctly. Right out of the box, got this one. 2 of those. Oh man, I don't know. I think there's a typo there. I don't know if I can give full points for a typo. I think I have to give it to GB. But GB, you were sent to hosts and panelists. Has to be sent to everyone. It looks like our winner here is going to be Totally 78 over on Twitch. This may be our first Twitch winner, I think. Let me bring it up on screen here. Totally 78. One of the correct answers we could have had was RoboFlow and YOLO. That is correct. Those were two of the pieces of software used. Sorry, Mikolaj, spelling does count. This is a show full of engineers and pedants, and we can't give you full credit for a typo. Partha, sorry, you were a little bit late. And GB, sorry, hosts and panelists doesn't count. It has to go to everybody, just like every week here on the show. Congratulations to Totally78 on Twitch. Please send one email to phil@opencv.org. That's me. And we will make sure that you get the fabulous prize of a signed copy of Kristen's book. That was a fun one. So let's go ahead and bring Kristen back on screen here. We've got some questions from folks in the chat out here. Yes, thank you, Totally78, our winner here with whoa, woohoo, yay Twitch. Yes, yay Twitch, indeed. Looks like we're averaging about 6 viewers over on Twitch today. I really appreciate that. Hopefully our numbers, will hit the mark to get monetized over there. As everybody knows, probably we're monetized on YouTube. We're about to, I think we just passed 130K subscribers over on YouTube. Nice. It's humbling and exciting to see those numbers. But we've got some questions here. The first one is from Zoom. Over on Zoom, they're interested in analytics, of course. This is a very nerdy show. They would like to know, do you have any stats on like how many times do the buses pass by every morning? How long does the bus stay in front of your house, for example, before it takes off? Is this information you have access to, Kristen?
So I don't think I'd be able to get how long the bus stays in front of my house. Sometimes buses cross at the same time, and I now currently have like a 30-second wait between grabbing pictures from the bus passing to sort of mitigate that. This is what the texts look like in the morning. Oh, that's fuzzy. It's fuzzy. But on here, it says the time and, that it drove by with 90% confidence. So instead of creating a dashboard, I've basically always used that to say, okay, I scroll through and say, okay, I know roughly what time this passes. If I ever had to like enter a dashboard competition, I would probably make a dashboard around metrics of the bus and tighten this up a bit. But I haven't, it's not something that I've currently done. And I know, because I live in such a small town, that the bus is passing my house 12 times a day, because it's back and forth for 3 buses in the morning and in the afternoon. So I haven't created a dashboard, but if I had to enter a dashboard competition, I'd probably do some cool stuff. And I don't have how long it stays.
Okay. Future
Not the most
improvements.
interesting answer. It's like a makeshift, I'm scrappy.
Yeah. You're bootstrapped here. Like, totally understand. Bruce over on Zoom asks. Bruce over on Zoom says, "Thank you. I just ordered the book since I didn't win it. Thanks, Bruce. We appreciate
Awesome.
that."
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah. Steve Simpson over on Zoom says, you could sell autograph books on Amazon for extra. He says he collects autograph books. Maybe drop an email, Steve. We can maybe help you out with that.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Thank you.
We've also got Totally78, our winner, in fact, earlier in the episode. No question, but I absolutely love this real world project. This has always been my favorite way to learn. Excellent work on the project and book. Let's go, next generation of data scientists. Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. Carlos on Zoom asks, are OpenCV University courses available in different languages? I will field that one. Currently, no, but if you're interested in a specific language for an OpenCV University course, a great thing to do would be to drop an email to the courses team. That's courses@opencv.org, because, we get enough suggestions and questions. It's totally possible that in the future, we'll translate some of these courses and into different languages. And the best way to ensure that happens or help it happen is by signaling your interest by sending an email. So that's courses@opencv.org. Got a couple more questions here. Yeah, Pablo says, hello, thank you for sharing your experience. Thanks for joining us, Pablo. We really appreciate that.
Thanks, Pablo.
Yeah. Also on Zoom, we've got Tiana Rahaga asks, how do you select your data set? So you talked a little bit, Kristen, about how you capture the data. You started with like your cell, like take a video with your cell phone and stuff like that. But how can you tell us a little bit more about how you did data capture for this? I think for such a bespoke, purpose-built thing, maybe it's interesting for people to get a little deeper dive on the data collection.
Yeah, so I actually wrote a blog article, and so this was when it was on YOLO v5, and like I said, now it's on YOLO v11, and the GitHub repo is available too. But I wrote a blog article when I, first did this on YOLO v5 about how I set up our TSP using OpenCV. I'm not saving all of my data currently. So currently now, if a bus is detected, then I save that image, and I'm not even saving it long term. Like I don't have long-term storage for my data, but previously it was, I was saving video. I turn that into frames, and then I used those frames to annotate. But yeah, like, so right now I don't have any long-term storage. I don't have, a big file of images somewhere. I'm only saving the image of when an actual bus is detected so that I can use AWS to include that in the text. But in the beginning, it was, saving, like I'd set it up to save just for a little bit so that I could then go and change that to frames and annotate it. And it's like, I started this 3 years ago, so it's actually, it changed a little bit along the way, but in the beginning, so that, the blog article is on datamovesme.com if you want to see how I got started there.
All right, thanks for that. We're getting close to the we're at the hour, but let's take a look in the chat here one more time for any further questions from the peanut gallery here. Scrolling here. JJ Larea over on Zoom asks, have you tried more recent let me bring the question up on screen here. Are more recent versions of YOLO able to distinguish from school buses without custom training? Have you tried any newer versions of YOLO other than YOLO 5?
So I went from YOLO 5 to YOLO 8 to YOLO V11. So I'm currently on V11, but I don't know if, right, because it depends on if they've changed the underlying data set that they're using to train. So when I originally trained the model, the COCO data set just didn't have a special class for school buses. It was only, they had cars, and then they did have some other things. I think it might have been trucks. Like they had other classes, but they didn't have specifically school buses. And so I don't know if like I haven't even checked if in more recent versions if they've started using a different data set or if they've added additional classes to it, or like whether that's from the data set or from a model perspective from like somebody else doing it. I have no idea.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. It's also possible that, did you take a look at RoboFlow Universe?
So I tried using the RoboFlow like AI annotation maybe a little over a year ago. I think personally, I didn't feel like it helped me to move faster because I still needed to look at each image, and like drawing the box was so fast that like I just, when I was adding additional data, I didn't actually use that. I tried the feature and then I didn't necessarily like use the feature going forward, but at the same time, that was over a year ago, so they may have like completely changed something since then, and I'm not familiar with like how it works right now.
Sounds good. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I checked RoboFlow Universe earlier, actually, before the episode, to see if
Oh, you're
they
talking
had.
about their data sets,
Yeah,
right? Oh,
I
yeah,
did not see a specific school bus data set on RoboFlow Universe. So maybe there's an opportunity out there for somebody that wants to
yeah.
contribute that to the open data sets.
Right,
Um,
right. Okay, yeah, no. And then I went off on a tangent about their AI features. But I still think that using the like if RoboFlow Universe had a data set that was of school buses, I still don't think it would have worked better than using the actual school bus that was passing my house.
yes, this is a good point too, because if you have a very specific, in this case, you don't care if it generalizes. You have one specific camera, one specific view, and all you need is for it to work for that scenario. And so you can get by with a lot less data when
Yeah.
you have, the same camera, the same view, and it doesn't change. If you're trying to generalize, you need, much more data from different angles and, like different times of day. But in your case, it's a specific time of day, it's a specific angle, it's a specific item. The kind of bus is not going to change, all
Yep.
that kind of
Yeah, the
stuff.
camera
So,
doesn't move, nothing.
mhm,
I wanted to add in the snow, in the dark, because in the, northeast, the winters, it gets like dark at 4 o'clock. So it's like, I cared
right.
about the light, the dark, the snow, a couple different things, but I wasn't looking for like I'm never gonna see the back of the bus really. Like it's always gonna be the same orientation.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, Kristen. So I think we're about at the end of our time here together. Any final thoughts for the audience out there? You can so go ahead and say bye, but also let them know where they can find you on the internet here one more time.
All right, awesome. Thank you so guys for hanging out with me. And if you want, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm Kristen Kehrer, and I look forward to seeing you around the data community.
Right on. You want to plug your show?
Oh, yeah. So I am the host of the Mavens of Data podcast, and it's really focused on data science and analytics and BI. And so it's a weekly live show similar to this one. We talk for about 40 minutes. It's a question and answer like interview. And then we also have open Q&A for the last like 10-15 minutes. So I'd love to see you join.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. We will. I will tune in for sure. Thanks for joining us, everybody, especially Kristen, fantastic presentation today. Really interesting stuff. We love seeing these real world, real life implementations of things. Purpose-built, bespoke stuff is just so interesting. We talk about the big picture stuff all the time on this show, but it really hammers home some of the real life value of some of this technology to be able to zoom in on the macro level and look at that. So thank you so much for sharing your experience here today. And thank you out there for watching. We would not do this show if you didn't watch it. It just wouldn't be worth it, honestly, but you do. And we really appreciate you tuning in every Thursday morning. We will be back next Thursday morning, same bat time, same bat channel, Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Take care of yourselves out there, folks. Take care of somebody else if you can, and have a great day wherever you may be. Adios.